In this section we're going to go over the capture API again, but this time we're going to capture audio as opposed to just an image. And we're just going to have a record button, and once we press that it'll take us to the device's default recording application. And when we stop the recording, it should go back to the page and display the file information. So the file name, the path, and some of the other properties that we can get with the capture API. So let me just paste in our starter code. Now in the body we're just going to have a button. Alright, so we're going to say button, and we're just going to give that an ID of record BTN for record button, and we'll just have it say record. So above our event listener, I'm just going to initialize a variable called audio capture, and we're actually going to set that to nothing. And then once the device is ready, then we're going to fill that value with the navigator dot device dot capture. Okay, so in order for the recording application to start up, we need to bind a function, and we're going to do that when the button is clicked on. So we're going to use a little jQuery here. Alright, so we're going to say we want to grab the record button. So we're using a jQuery selector here, and this should actually be a hashtag because we're grabbing the ID of record button. Okay, now we're going to use the bind event, and in the bind event we're going to, it's going to be a touch start event. So touch start. You could use click, but touch start is a little smoother. And then we just want to call a self-initializing function. So function. Alright, so when the button's clicked or touched, we're going to call get audio. And that's all we need in here. We're just going to, once the button's clicked or touched, it's just going to call this function get audio. So let's write that now. So let's get out of the on device ready function and create get audio, and we're going to say audio capture dot capture audio. Alright, so for this API we need two callbacks. So we're going to say on, we'll say on capture success, and then for an error callback we'll say on capture error, and we can put some parameters in here. You can actually have the number of recordings that you'll allow in one API call, and we're just going to keep it at 1 just to avoid any issues, because I have had issues when it's multiple recordings. Now we have a little error here. What's this? Expected but found 1. Oh, right after the limit we need a colon. Alright, so that's it for the get audio. Now let's create the success callback function. So we're going to say function on capture success. Okay, and this is going to take the audio object, and we're going to say variable. I'm going to set a variable of I and a variable output, which is going to be equal to nothing. And now we need a for loop to go through the audio files and display the information on the screen. So in our for loop, we're going to say I equals 0. And we're going to say as long as I is less than audio object dot length. Alright, and we're going to say we're going to increment by 1 after every loop. Okay, so that's what this is doing. And in here we're going to build up our output string variable. So output, we're adding on to the current output variable, so we're going to use plus equals. That just means that it's going to append whatever we want. So the first thing we're going to have is the name. So we'll say name, and then we want to concatenate on audio object, and we're going to use the I. That's going to be the placeholder for whatever iteration we're on, and we're going to say dot name. That'll give us the name, and we'll just concatenate on a break tag. Okay, so next we want the path, so we'll say full path, and that's going to be audio object dot full path plus, and we're just going to add another line break. Alright, so I can actually copy this, make it a little bit quicker. After full path, we're going to want the type. Okay, so we can just replace full path with type. And then we want the created date. So we'll just say, sorry about that. Created on, and this is going to be equal to, we actually have to set a new date object. So let's see, what are we going to do here? I'm going to say new date, and inside of that we want our audio object. So I'm going to, alright, so audio object, it's going to be audio object. Actually, you know what? I forgot all the I's. It has to be audio object and then the I. Object.type, and this is going to be audio object dot last modified date. Alright. So wrap that in these parentheses for the date function. So that looks good. So the last thing we want to get is the size of the file. So size dot size, and that'll be the end. So that's the end of the output variable. So now we want to insert this data somewhere, and we could make another div and use inner HTML, but I'm going to do something different. I'm just going to use the before method. So we'll just say I don't know why I keep putting the $sign. So record button, the record button ID, we're going to use dot before. So what this does is it just inserts whatever we put in the middle here before the actual element, which in this case is the button. So we're going to put in the output variable. So once we click the button, we'll record, we'll stop recording, go back to the page, and the all the data which is in the output variable will show above the button. Pretty easy. So the next thing we want to do is create the error callback function. So we're going to say function on capture error, and we're going to pass that a parameter of error. And there's different codes that we can use, different error codes to let the user know what's going on. So let's create a variable called error reason, and we're going to use a switch statement, and we've done this before with error codes. So this is going to take in error.code, and we want to start with, we'll say case 0, case 0. Let's use error message, it's a little easier. So error message is going to equal to, we'll say Mike failed to record. Okay, so that's one of the error codes. And then we want to break, and now we can say case 1. Okay, error message, and the 1 will be recording. App is currently busy. And then a break. Case 2. And that's going to be invalid parameter. Case 3, message will be, sorry, I get something on my screen. Let's see, case 3 is going to be app was exited before recording, or before recording was complete. And the last one, we're going to say error message, device does not support the audio capture request. Okay, so that looks good. And now we want to just alert the user. So we'll say alert error and error message. Okay. Okay, so that's all we have for our JavaScript. Sorry about that, that keeps going off. I want to, well, we have to include some jQuery here. So I'm going to create a new folder. And call it JS. Now we need to get jQuery, so okay, so let's just grab the, we're going to get jQuery 1, we'll just get the compressed version, copy. Actually, we should view source and then copy. And Control U is view source. Okay, so let's go back to here. We'll say new JavaScript jQuery. and we just want to paste that code in there and save it. And now we just want to include it. Copy that. So this is going to be JS/jQuery. And I know I've explained it before, but just in case you missed it, we have to include the PhoneGap.js file, but we don't need it. Alright, we don't have it in our file structure. What happens is when we put it through the build program, it gives us the proper PhoneGap.js file for our Android, because the PhoneGap.js file is different depending on what platform that you're building your app for. Okay, so if we save that, let's just take a look at what we have. Alright, so we just have a record button. It's not going to do anything. In fact, I'm not going to be able to test it on video because we can't access the microphone or anything of this virtual device. So I just want to, last thing I want to do is just add a little bit of style. Alright, so first thing, I just want the body to be black. And we'll want the color white. Whoops, sorry. Black needs to be white. Alright, so next thing, the record button. I don't know why I keep putting $signs in. Alright, so record button, we're going to say display block. That way we can center it. We're going to make it we're actually going to make the button a red circle like a record button. So border radius is going to be 50%. We need a width, we'll say 100 pixels, height 100 pixels, and background is going to be red. What else? The color of the text will be white. There I go again. And finally, we want it in the middle, so let's say margin 30 pixels up and down, auto left and right. Alright, so let's save that. So reload, and there's our record button. You can click it. And I'm not going to make another video and actually install it on my phone and so forth, but I will create the APK file and I will put that in the program files. So that's how you can use the Capture API to record audio.